Everybody, we are going live. It is goldsilverpros.com live broadcast on Tuesday, August 31, 2021. We're going to give it a minute for the screen to load for YouTube to let everybody know that we're going live. And we will get started with the content shortly. And as promised, we are going to be talking about Chinese yuan and pegging to gold and whether that is actually true or not. Thank you, Kevin, for joining the room. Kevin, hello from Ohio. Hello from the great state of Texas and Dallas-Fort Worth, and welcome to the live stream. We'll get started here in just a moment. Hello, Michael. He has joined the program and moderating for us. We appreciate you riding shotgun with us, Michael. Joshua Robertson is here. Silver Ape, you can tell by his first message there. We're going to let everyone load in. We'll get into it just here in a moment. Lots of rumors circulating whether China's about to peg its yuan to gold, promulgated by several analysts, and we're going to look at all of those reports today in the live stream. Also, want your guys' questions. Please put your questions down below or in the chat, if you will. You can do that via just typing out your question, and I'll try to notice it as best I can. Or if you want to stick out, you can use the super chats, which will basically guarantee that it gets answered because it just helped me see it in the chat window. Hey, Devin, thanks for joining. Hey, Prepper Days. Hey, AJ Joseph. Hello from Austin, Texas. Good to see you guys in. We'll get started in a couple of moments when we get people loaded. Looks like we got about 25 or 30, so we will let more people make their way into the live stream. If you guys have other news that you want me to cover, put that into the chat as well, and I'll make a note of it for everybody and cover it in future videos. We're going to be covering gold and silver, gold, and silver, because that's what we do here at the channel. Hello, Craig Trout. He says, hey, Rob, would you rather go to space or come down with a case of mad cow? You know, I'm scared of either one. I really don't want the mad cow. I guess I'd have to say if that's my only option to go to space. But man, after what happened to the Challenger shuttle, I sure as heck would be very careful about wanting to go into space, especially with NASA. I might rather try it with the Russian space program than I would with NASA. Nothing against NASA, but they haven't had the greatest track record as of lately. And I also think they're going into space and really not telling us, because we went to the moon, in the late 60s, and then we haven't talked about subsequent moon trips since then. All our technology's gotten so much better. So I think they probably made a bunch of trips up there. They're just not telling anybody. So they're probably much better than they're letting on. But in any case, I probably wouldn't trust to go into space with NASA anyway. Not the best choice, but interesting thought experiment, at least, for sure. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Andy has joined. We see Justice Junkie Prepper Passions, is in. Josh is in. We got two Joshes in, Josh and Joshua Robertson, both Silver Apes. Welcome to the program. We'll get started here in a moment. I'm going to let it count up to about 100 users. If you guys have other news you want me to cover, put it down there. If you've seen anything in the Twitterverse, in social media, or in the news at GoldSeek or any other that you want to talk about, throw it in there and we'll talk about it. This is going to be where I go over the China pegging gold story, who's promulgating that, whether I think that's actually going to come true. But we'll do a little Q&A too. So if you've got things you want to talk about or news to announce, let me know and we'll jump right on that. Breaking the fiction addiction. Welcome to the program. Nobody goes to space. Oh, I don't know. I suppose you're going to tell me the Earth is flat and space is not real. That's fine if that's your opinion. I don't really know whether anybody went to space, but I'm not too worried about it. Mutant Ryef is here. Bree Chaliti is here. Julie Newhouse is in. Good to see you back on the program, Julie. I hadn't seen you in a while. Maybe I just hadn't noticed you, but thanks for being part of the program. Looks like we got an excellent connection here, guys. The analytics are going well. We've got a bunch of people. Prepper Days, $2. Have you heard of China's oil fund? I think all of the nations have their own sovereign funds that invest in energy. So it wouldn't surprise me, Prepper Days, if they have their own oil fund and if they use that to secure their own supply. Would not surprise me at all. Although I can't say that I've actually analyzed that fund or I've read any prospectus or anything out there, but it would not surprise me. I think every nation has their own different types of energy funds, probably even stuff like rare earth funds that they invest with their sovereign wealth funds, I'm sure. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started on the program. I think we've got enough loaded. Today's topic is, will China peg their yuan or renminbi, if you will, to gold? Now, I've speculated in the past that I think eventually they'll do that. Now, whether it's an outright peg or they just move gold into the banking system to shore up the balance sheet, much like we see the Western markets trying to do with Basel III, whether it's overt or, explicitly done, but not talked about, doesn't really matter. I do think that China will eventually do that because I think China has more gold that's on their official reserves. A lot of that's stored in their sovereign fund. I think the same thing with Russia, stored in their sovereign fund. And they're probably hiding a lot of it because we know they bought their production, all of their internal domestic production over the years. And, but at the end of the day, are they actually going to peg it? They're actually outright going to peg it. There have been several analysts that have said that they've either threatened to do this or they will do it. And these are very prominent analysts, by the way. These are not people, just on the blogosphere. They've got some cred to them and they've been in the gold and silver space for a long time. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about whether rumors got started on Reddit and Twitter. Now, I'm not going to show you the Reddit and Twitter posts. You can find it on your own. I believe the Reddit post is on Wall Street Silver, or at least one of them that I saw. And there was a Twitter post. But following that up, I don't think that China has actually announced that or have implied that, at least explicitly. They may have threatened it behind the scenes, but I don't think they imply explicitly. And I'm going to explain why. And then we're going to talk about, would they actually do it right now? And how would that affect China's financial solvency, sovereign financial solvency, because of all the US debt that they hold? I think we have to examine that from that angle. So I'm going to talk about that too. Let's go ahead and share screen. We're going to talk about where we think some of these rumors could have started. And we're going to talk about what China, we're going to start with actually what China's gold reserves actually are. And when we say reserves, we don't mean what they hold in bar and coin form. We mean what they hold in their gold fields. Now that information is available. So let's start with that. So here is an article on iNews, September 1, 2021. Actually, this actually came out this morning. So this is on Hong Kong time, HKT, as you see here. So it's actually produced today, but actually hours ahead in Hong Kong. So this says in first half of the year, China's gold consumption rebounded by 69%, but it talks about in here how much their reserves are. So we're going to talk about this paragraph. China Gold Yearbook 2021. So China Gold Yearbook is put out by, I think, china-gold.org, not china.org. There is no china.org. If you look it up, it doesn't resolve. It doesn't lead you to a webpage. It's china-gold.org. Puts out this yearbook. And in 2021, it says here, is the only publication, according to iNews, that comprehensively reflects the development of China's gold industry and the development trend of the gold market. The yearbook shows that at the end of 2020, the national gold resources amounted to 14,727.16 tons. China's gold resources have achieved 15 consecutive years of growth and have exceeded the 10,000 ton mark for 5 consecutive years. Now, this is not by fact talking about what China publicly states they have in their banking system, the central banking system. When they're saying resources, they're not referring 14,000 or over 10,000 for the last 5 years there, because officially I think it's something like 1,000 something tons, 1,500, 1,700, somewhere around there. It's under 2,000 tons. So they're not saying the banking system has that much minted or barred gold in the banking system. They're saying their resources. And then they also go to talk about the production. They're not referring to above ground. They're talking about in the ground. And we know that by another story. This is on Xinhua Net as of October 5th, 2020. China's proven gold reserves are about 14,131 tons in 2019. It says here from Beijing, reporting for Beijing. China's proven gold reserves were 14,131.06 tons at the end of 2019, according to the yearbook issued by the China Gold Association. Same yearbook, China Gold Yearbook. To clarify, the figure shows a rise of 3.61% compared to 2018. The CGA said the 2020 yearbook of Chinese gold industry, adding the country has maintained steady year-on-year growth of proven gold reserves since 2012. And reserves, they mean in ground. Output of gold in the country dipped 5.21% to 380.23 tons, the highest in the world for 13th year. So China is producing the most in the world, and they're domestic. And we believe China government is buying it all. We can't prove it. The yearbook summarized the development of China's gold industry, covering the entire industry chain, including exploration, mining, processing, and investment. So they're not talking about what's in the banking system. It includes exploration, mining, processing, and investment. Okay, that includes reserves still in the ground, and that which has come out, which has been sold and invested in. So yes, 14,000 tons, 14,131 tons. Okay, 14,727 as of 2021, 14,131 as of 2020. But that includes gold exploration, mining, processing, and investment. Okay, so that's not what the central bank owns. Now they're also saying investment, which would mean what the Chinese people own. So they're estimating what the Chinese people have owned, what has been processed in China, what has been mined, and what is still in the ground. That's the entire supply chain. So they're not admitting that China has 14,727.16 tons owned by the central bank or in the China Sovereign Wealth Fund. They're saying across the supply chain, including consumers. That's investment. That's consumer investment. That's commercial investment. So I wanted to dispel the rumor that, first of all, that China had announced that they have 14,000 tons, and secondly, that China is pegging their yuan to gold. That's not what these reports say in these Asian publications, and not what the China World Book had said at china-gold.org. That's not what they have said, at least what I've been able to be publicly produced. Now we're going to get into who's saying that China either threatened to or will peg their currency to gold here in a moment. I've got a couple of stories on that. We're going to get into that. Before I do, I want to drop down and see what you guys are saying in chat. It looks like Fentinaranja has a question. When do prizes from the conference ship out? Can't wait to get my rock my GSP hat. Thanks for asking the question. We're going to send those out in a couple of weeks. The reason is we had ordered the hats via a popular online site. They had a little bit of a back order. So that order has been shipped. We haven't gotten it yet. And also I had to do a little bit of travel. So I won't physically receive them until around the 12th or 13th. So as soon as we get them, we'll ship them out. So just give us a couple of weeks, we'll do it. Same for the silver, because I'm going to ship them all out at the same time. So we did give out some 1 ounce silver bars. We'll ship those, and the hats at the same time. Thank you for inquiring. I know that it takes a little bit of time for us to do that, but just bear with us, because there was a little bit of a delay in getting the hats, and I want to ship it all at the same time. So you'll get it. Any other questions? Let us know, guys. There is a comment here from John: backing the yuan with gold would strengthen it, but this would make their exports more expensive. How is that good for China? John, let me take that question into later in the video when I talk about that, and also the debt markets. That's a really good question, John Gaspard. We'll answer that later, I promise. Dumb Money Media with contribution. Thank you. Dumb Money Media always provides us contributions, and we appreciate it. It was wondering if you think China implements a version of this will also force a hand the U.S. to others do the same. Yes. Once one currency pegs to gold, that implies that gold will be closer to finding its true market price, because why would you do it other than that? Would you peg your currency to gold at 1,800 bucks gold? Hell no. You want to do it to what you think is a free market price, 5 to 10,000. And I don't think the world is ready to go to free market gold yet. If you look at Basel III, yes, they want gold as an asset on the balance sheet, but they only want to revalue to more of a free market gold price, not even maybe a true free market, but a pseudo free market price when they're ready to recapitalize the banking system. I don't think they're ready to do that in the Western world. And for other reasons I'll get to later in the video, I don't think they're willing to do it in China yet either. There are a couple of prominent analysts that have talked about why China may be threatening to do that soon, but I don't think we're ready for that yet. There are other things that have to happen in the financial system, the reset and other things, before I think they're ready to do that to gold. And I think you have to have a freer gold price. And I don't think the world's quite ready for that. I think we're getting closer. But I don't think so quite yet. So we're going to go back into the share. We're going to talk about some of the analysts that have been talking about China and the gold and the currency and all of this stuff. And these are prominent analysts. These are people that they're intelligent, have been, we have been following over the years. One that I've written at a similar site. We both wrote at Seeking Alpha, that I know, that I've spoken to in the past via private email. So this isn't conspiracy theory. These are reputable people, but they're surmising this is going to happen soon. So on King World News, Dr. Stephen Lieb, on August 29th, Dr. Stephen Lieb, somebody who is a prominent name in finance, wrote for Seeking Alpha many years. I spoke to him personally on Seeking Alpha private mail message, is saying that he thinks that China's going to do it. So, and it's based upon a video, and we'll just get into it in a minute. He says here, the link I provide here will get you to an infomercial that appeared a while back on China International English Language Cable TV channel CGTN. And I've got that right here, and I'll get into that in a minute. It explains China's introduction of a digital renminbi. And yes, China has already said they're going to do the digital yuan or digital renminbi. They're going to do the digital currency, and they're going to move faster than any of the other countries, including any of the countries in Europe or the US. They're going to be first movers here. He says, Dr. Stephen Lieb says, pay attention to the color of the digital coin, the graphic. It's gold and will be launched in February 22 at the Winter Olympics being hosted in Beijing. So he's saying the digital renminbi will be launched. And he says, and this is where he stretches on this video, Dr. Stephen Lieb. And while the infomercial never mentions gold explicitly, China, for as long as I've been following it, has been exceedingly circumspect about explicit mentions of gold with a few salient hints. I agree with him there. He don't think it's a coincidence. I think you can take it as a sign of things to come. It speaks volume to where the world is headed, and probably sooner or later, which is toward the end of the dollar as world reserve currency and toward a new global monetary system brokered by China that is underpinned by gold. He's saying here, China's basically going to peg it to gold or support it with gold. And the headline that Eric King puts out, King World News, is around a digital gold-backed currency started 2022. So that is the theme promulgated by King World News and Dr. Stephen Lieb. Now, Dr. Stephen Lieb, I think, is a very credible economic analyst. I've seen him write for King World News and Seeking Alpha, and he's basically saying China will stun the world by doing it at the start of 2022. That's at the Olympics. I don't know that the link that he references here actually says that. He's saying the coin used in this video is gold, and that means they're going to back it with gold. Well, Bitcoin has a gold coin. A lot of altcoins use gold in the coin, and that's to establish credibility on digital coins. They're doing that on purpose because people inherently know that gold has value and has had value for 5,000 years. So they're trying to borrow from that credibility of gold and apply it to a digital currency, whether it be a third-party currency like Bitcoin or a private currency like Bitcoin or a central bank digital currency like the digital renminbi or the digital yuan. But Stephen Lieb's making a leap there, saying that because in this video, it's gold. So he's saying this is a digital renminbi, it's gold, even though in the video, and I've watched it in the article, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say it's going to be backed by gold anywhere in here, at least not explicitly. And the video doesn't say it. They're just saying we're going to have a digital renminbi. But he's saying because it's gold in here, he thinks that China is intimating or hinting that's going to be backed by gold. I don't go there based upon that. I go there based upon, I think eventually China wants to challenge the dollar at the right time and will announce that gold is playing a prominent role in their currency system and in their banking system, central banking system, whether they explicitly and overtly peg the renminbi to gold price or back it with gold in that it's exchangeable, so many renminbi for so many grams or ounces of gold. I don't know. But Stephen Lieb is making that. Now, he's not the only one because, and I've reported on this before, Hugo Salinas Price, writing for plata.com.mx on his recurring column, has stated that he believes that Russia and China threatened to do this earlier. So I'm going to read to you this article. On April 6, 2021, the website Russia Today made an announcement. Putin poised to set out a vision for a future and dramatic speech and what allies say would be the world's most important political event. Now, this article here on RT, RussiaToday.com, did not explicitly state that Russia was threatening to back its currency with gold, but look at what Hugo Salinas Price says in the article. He says, however, it turned out that Putin did not set any vision for the future in any dramatic speech, and the world's most important political event did not take place. What has been going on? Here's his opinion, Hugo Salinas Price, the billionaire investor, on what he thinks Putin was going to say. Hugo says, in my opinion, there is only one explanation for this odd situation. Putin was threatening to restore gold backing for the Russian ruble and the Chinese yuan. And this scared the living daylight of the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, which caved into pressure from Russia and its ally China. He was saying that Basel III came into place because at some point in time, Putin told them, or the Western banking system through the BIS, that Russia and China were going to peg or back their currencies with gold. Now, there's no actual citation for this. He thinks that's what happened based upon information he knows in the background that he gathered, that Putin did it. And that's why Basel III came out and the NSFR requirements for the Western system to use gold to make it a high quality liquid asset. We've had 6 videos on that. Now, this is Hugo Salinas Price. I'm not saying this. This is what he said. And he goes on to further to say, Hugo does on this link, as a result of Putin's threat, this May, the BIS advised it was implementing new rules to govern international banks regarding the presentation of amounts of gold which they hold, which are no longer include unallocated gold. In other words, get rid of the unallocated gold market in London, make them back it with all physical, and therefore the banks have to do the same on their balance sheets, a high quality liquid asset. So he goes on to say, it's been operations as unallocated gold in the London market, i.e. mythical gold, which has allowed the most important banks of Britain and US to control and suppress the market price for gold. I agree with that statement, by the way. Under the new rules, which were presented in full on June 20th of this year, the price of gold will no longer be subject to manipulation by the US and UK. Well, that's not true, because we found out afterwards the regulatory authority in London exempted Britain from that standard in terms of non-leased and non-lended gold, which is part of the gold trade, but it's confusing as to which part. And further, that the LBMA said, we're not going to comply with this till January 1, 2022 anyway. Okay, moving on. The most important of these banks in the country will no longer be able to count on unallocated or non-existent gold for the inclusion of the price control. Russia and its ally China have thus canceled the power of the US and UK to keep the price of gold in deep freeze for so many years. Nobody knows how high the price of gold will be after June 28th, but the higher it goes, the lower goes the international value of the dollar and other national currencies. I'm going to get into this in a minute. Hugo Salinas price also makes another very important observation. The enormous US imports of Chinese goods will have to fall to a trickle, and that reduction will result in return to economic reality will decimate the standard of living of Americans. But it would also devastate the Chinese economy as well, because the economy works two ways. It's back and forth. So let's explain this for a moment. Do I think that in the beginning of 2022, because of Basel III and because of these threats and because of Dr. Stephen Leaf's surmising that what China's going to do, that China's actually going to announce either a pegging of its yuan renminbi currency to gold or supporting it directly in gold, and that Russia will do the same thing according to Hugo Salinas price? No. I mean, it could happen January 1. Eventually, I do think for China, in some way, it's going to be exchangeable for gold. Eventually, I don't think we're ready for that yet. There's two reasons. And Hugo mentioned them. One, the trade. And it was also mentioned by one of our viewers early in the video, and I promised I'd answer this. The current account balance of China and US favors China. China exports goods for dollars, and that builds its economy and helps build its middle class. China doesn't want to destroy that in one fell swoop. And doing this and revaluing gold to some other market price and supporting its currency, thereby destroying the value of the dollar and therefore the ability of Americans to buy all of its stuff. It would destroy its manufacturing sector. Now, China has said, their economic analysts have said in Chinese papers, and it's come across to US papers, and I've documented this on my channel before as well, several months ago, that they do expect that China's plan has shifted. Their 5-year plan of their economic advisors and government has shifted from exporting all our stuff to other nations to to having its economy support itself, meaning they want the middle class to buy goods with Chinese yuan so that they can be self-supporting economy and still have exports, but reduce their dependence on foreign exports, specifically to the US, but also European Union, to Russia, and to everywhere. Eventually, you want to do that, but they're not going to flip a switch like that. You're going to crash that economy. If China destroys the value of the dollar, a lot of its goods go to the US or go to other nations in dollars. That would destroy the ability of the rest of the world to buy its stuff. It would crash their economy. The second thing you have to understand is China, despite them dumping US debt and liquidating US dollars, they're doing that slowly. They still have a ton of US debt. It would crash a lot of the reserves on their balance sheet held in US debt and in US dollars, which they consider, assets. They're not going to do it all at once. They're going to do it slowly and surreptitiously behind the scenes so as not to spook the market. That's my opinion. That's why I think, yeah, they're doing it right now, but it's slow. They're not going to flip a switch at the beginning of 2022, I don't think. Now, Dr. Lieb is certainly a very intelligent analyst. Hugo Salinas Price is certainly a well-connected, big investor. Those names are not to be trifled with. They certainly have said these things for good reasons, I'm sure, in their eyes. But from my perspective, I don't think it's going to happen all at once. I think it's going to happen slowly. Just like Basel III is not going to revalue gold all at once. They can't do it. They're going to crash the London banks. They're going to do it slowly. They're going to eventually work it in. They're going to unwind some of their positions. They're going to accumulate more physical gold. It's all going to be this slow process. We do think it's happening, but I never believe these light switch moments where somebody flips a switch and the whole thing just goes boom. Just like I don't think the reset's going on all at one day. I think it's a period of progression over time. And that's good because it gives us time to react and prepare, which is what we want. That works in our favor. React and prepare over time for these events that are occurring over time. I do think that reset is going to hit a point at which it bowls over and some of these markets are going to crash. but the powers that be in the banking system, the financial elites, the national governments are not just going to flip a switch and do this. It's not the way it works. The economic consequences of which would lead them probably to be ousted from power, which they don't want, and would cause a lot of great strain in their economies, which they don't want at the moment. I don't think they're ready for that. So that's my opinion on that. Thank you so much for the questions so far, guys. Let's see if there are other questions here. Remember, super chats are open, gets my attention, but I'll still see the rest. We could still buy their product if we used their gold back coin note. Yes, we could, but Americans' purchasing power would be destroyed because what do they hold? Assets in dollars, stocks denominated dollars, bonds tied to the dollar, and dollars in their bank account. If you crash the relative value of the dollar relative to everything else, what are they going to be able to buy if the dollar's not worth as much? The Chinese goods skyrocket. It would be easier for us to start manufacturing our own goods. That actually in the long run would be good for the US, although short-term pain, long-term it would bring back our manufacturing sector because if our currency is suddenly valued so much less than China's, we become an exporting nation, more attractive to people establishing manufacturing here to export with the weak dollar. So long run, that would hurt, although short-term, a lot of pain. And I don't think China wants that because it would crash their economy. I think they'll do it slowly. I don't think they're going to do it quickly. So good questions, everybody. For joining. We have brought you analysis from Dr. Stephen Lieb, from Hugo Salinas Price. We brought you some stories indicating how much China gold reserves are, or resources are. That includes the entire supply chain, not just in their banking system, but mining, exploration, held by retail and commercial investors, so on and so forth. And this is over time. So there's 14,700 tons are not what China is saying is backed by their banking system. They didn't come out and make that announcement, at least from what I could tell. And I've been searching pretty much all day across the internet, and that's what I could find. So I think we've illuminated that mystery for you guys, and we've talked about the ramifications of what would happen and kind of looked at it from both China's perspective and the US's perspective, and even the BIS's perspective, and how and why this is most likely to happen. I think we've answered the questions. Wanted to have a quick note for those of you that do follow us and the mining companies that we have on our channel. We got a quick announcement from GoGold on August 25th. They announced the results of the 6 diamond drill holes from the El Arito area in the Los Ricos project. They had a really good hole here, LRGO 21062, that had 1,197 grams per ton silver equivalent, which contained 73.7 meters of 101 grams per ton silver equivalent. And that's a breakdown of zinc, silver, and gold values. They have a table here on this of all the recent drill holes where they talk about all their finds. They got really good gold finds, really good silver finds, and they also have some copper and some lead and zinc in there as well. This is a polymetallic deposit. Those are important because most of the silver discoveries now, and a lot of the gold ones too, are coming from polymetallic. They're not pure gold or silver. So if you want to get into gold and silver, you want to get in polymetallic, you get your gold and silver, and then you can use these other metals as byproduct credits. But we also think in the coming commodities boom that's already started, copper, lead, and zinc are all going up. In fact, copper's been at a 10-year high for I don't know how long. Lead and zinc have also done very well. So now these base metals are becoming more important because they've actually had a better year than both gold and silver in terms of the commodity price increase. So these are no longer just byproduct credits. These are actually positive credits to the overall balance sheet of these companies. So GoGold is a producer. So when they find this stuff, that's going to be added into their future production as they produce silver and gold and get these other byproduct credits. So a little bit of a note on GoGold. We appreciate that because GoGold's one of the companies we like and that we follow on the channel. All right, going back to the chat. Any other questions? I've answered the 2 super chats from Dumb Money Media and from Prepper Days as well. What other questions do you have, guys? If you have other news you want to talk about, this is a live Q&A stream. Ask your questions. I'll answer best of my ability. Kevin W says, long story short, keep on stacking your gold and silver. Agree 100% with that, man. Stack that gold and silver. There's only a limited amount. And eventually when gold becomes more prominent in the banking system, it's going to get revalued. That's coming. I anticipate sometime in the middle of this, middle years of this decade, 2024 to 2026. That's what I guesstimate based upon a lot of other things. The move from LIBOR to SOFR, for example, in the valuation of interest rates, the derivative complex in interest rates, the amount of reserves that China has to get rid of in the US, China changing its economic system, the US responding to that, the Basel requirements, lots of things that I look at tell me about 2024 to 2026 is when, you know, the climax, if you want, or the top of the reset is going to occur when it becomes so overt that you can't ignore it. I do think the reset is occurring right now in stages and steps that we can see that we've covered on the channel, but I think it's become much more overt in the middle years. You probably got a couple of years left maybe before all this happens. Of course, the banking system is fragile. We could have a black swan crash it now. It's possible, but I think powers be are planning for that 2024 to 2026 timeframe for all of that to occur. Craig Trout says they both want the dollar move as world currency. After that, they will have their agendas. I agree. I think it's going to be like a gang of like 8 people that get along, that have the same overall goals, but they all want to rule it. It's like they all want to be, you know, the mob bosses of their districts and rule it themselves, but they have to kind of go along similar timelines to get to the same goal. Like if one country goes full central bank digital currency and the others don't, then that offers the ability of people to go into those other currencies that aren't central bank digital currencies and undermines that system. So they all need to move along at the relative same pace, or else the system ain't going to work and people are not going to buy into it. So I do think there's some collaboration there between the world governments moving to central bank digital currencies and utilizing gold to support the banking systems, but they each want to rule it themselves, I think is the way I would credit that. Oh, Captain Seltblood says, why doesn't the USA make $1 trillion out of thin air and just buy gold and silver? Well, who says they haven't through the Exchange Stabilization Fund? If you look at the Exchange Stabilization Fund that was created out of the Gold Act back, I think it was the 30s, I think that they probably have surreptitiously been buying gold and just not reporting it. And they're probably dumping dollars or whatever else they can do to do that. But we don't know where it is because they haven't had an audit of our central bank reserves. So who knows who's got it? I mean, we don't know. Good comment though. I like that one. Dumb Money Media, another contribution. In my laziness moving, I did upload to the Fed. Let me know if it makes sense. We'll definitely do that. Definitely go look at Dumb Money Media's YouTube page. He does great meme videos. We love them. We'll go check that out later on and maybe even put it on the program on the next one. Tom Goudreau says China is getting old faster than they're getting rich. Russia is not a growing economy. Yeah, they're struggling with age demographics, and that's why China has been promoting more than, was it 1 or 2 kids per family? I think it used to be 1 kid per family. They're promoting now having bunches of babies. So their millennial generation go have a bunch of babies to try to fight those demographics. So that has been a shift in policy in China. Thank you for the comment. Kevin W. Inflation is just heating up. One has to keep in mind debt is a financial nightmare heading our way. I agree with you. I would say if you're a debtor on a fixed rate contract, it could work in your favor if you have enough gold and silver, but you have to be careful there. You have to read your contract, make sure it's truly fixed, and then you can't revalue it. There's not, for instance, a gold clause in there or a currency revaluation clause. And you have to make sure you can hold out as long for that to occur. Maybe smarter for you to pay off that debt as an individual decision. Just depends on your individual decision. Disclaimer, consult your financial advisor. I have to say that on every video. Don't trade on what I'm telling you. Consult your financial advisor. Any other questions, guys? I'm going to scroll back in the chat and see if there are earlier ones. I answered Captain Seltblood. I answered Mr. Trout. Sam Greer says China is the bankster's new golden boy. They'll be next reserve currency backed at first. I agree because I think the IMF is moving their headquarters over there. China is now part of the SDR basket. They're playing a role in the Basel requirements and Bank for International Settlements. I think China muscled their way in there. I agree with you on that comment. Good comment. Yeah, Michael is mentioning an agreement between Russia and Saudi Arabia. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, that has to do with a military agreement, Saudi Arabia and Russia. So the military geopolitical winds of change in the Middle East are shifting to where Saudi Arabia is making side deals with Russia now. Does that undermine what's going on in the US? I don't know. It's not really a political channel, but I did see that news. That seems to be pretty big. It seems that geopolitically realigning, and how that affects economics is going to be interesting to see. I think that's another move away from the dollar, just like the trade deals that China's been doing all over the world. Of course, on our video you saw yesterday, there was an executive of a gold company in Colombia talking about how China is buying up gold assets in Colombia. So China's all over the world buying up oil and gold, rare earths and everything. So so China is not doing it through the military. They're doing it mostly through economic deals. And then you see Russia making some military deals and some economic deals. So you definitely see the world realigning away from the US. So in as much as that affects the economy, we'll talk about it. I'm not a political expert here, but we will talk about the economic ramifications. Yeah, Michael says the details are scarce right now. I agree with you. They're kind of scarce, but thank you, Michael, for bringing that up. That is important news to bring up on the program. Appreciate that. Dumb media coming back again. Which central banks are hoarding the most gold right now? I know the inflows have been nuts all over the place. Hungary, Germany's trying to repatriate. Russia and China had the biggest public inflows, but there have been other countries that we think are also having inflows as well. We think the Middle East is doing it. We think a lot of European nations, especially Eastern European nations, are doing it. China and Russia, we know. I think Brazil is trying to repatriate. Germany's trying to repatriate. I suspect that Chile, being one of the biggest economies in South America, is doing it. Brazil. I don't know about the rest, to be honest with you. Those are the ones that have been explicit that I've seen. Good question, Dominique. Thank you. John Gaspard says China has proposed that gold be added to SDR basket as a separate currency. What do you think? Yeah, I think that's in step with gold. That's the narrative that fits in with the global narrative that gold is going to come front and center of the banking system again. I 100% think so. It would not surprise me. And I think the SDRs have long been planned. If you listen to James Rickards, the SDRs have long been planned as a replacement of the dollar as a reserve currency, or maybe representative of the stronger currencies in the SDR basket. Remember, they don't have to explicitly announce a new reserve currency. If the dollar falls, the other currencies in the basket become a bigger proportion of the SDR. That's effectively making the SDR a world reserve currency without anybody announcing it, regardless of the individual currency strength. So the benefit of the SDR system is that you don't have to announce a world reserve currency. The SDR becomes at the supranational level the world reserve currency, and then you just worry about the individual currencies and you back those with gold. And so therefore gold backs the new currency system. And you could do it that way. And that way you could control it without having to announce a specific currency. You just use the SDR with those reserve currencies trading on their relative value, backed by what? How much high quality liquid assets they have, a large portion of which is gold. And yes, you could put gold in that basket to stabilize as well. Maybe they put gold 10 or 15% and it stabilizes the SDR when you have these individual currency fluctuations when they move to the central bank digital currencies. Hey, that's a really bright idea. And that may be the way they're doing it. And I could certainly see that. Good comment by John there. Matt Bailey, having babies in China is about a coming war. My Chinese friend was told this by our family. Could be. Maybe they want additional resources for war. We have wars every so often. Who knows? Glenn Horowitz, thank you for the contribution. Are you still enthusiastic about blue? Yes, I am. What I'm going to do for my paid subscriber members is go back over some of the more prominent gold, silver, zinc, copper companies we've looked at and offer you guys an update. That would be part of the paid service. But I may come back on the program and offer a free review of Blue Lagoon here in the future. Stay tuned. We're going to do this for Calinex resources. For those of you that invest and love Calinex, I'm one of them. Calinex is coming up. We're going to come back on the channel and review them soon on the free channel. Stay tuned for that. For those of you that invest on the resources, the mining stocks and the royalty stocks. What else do we got? Brazil bought a lot. Michael says in gold. That is true. Thank you for the super chats, everybody. I don't see any other comments, any other questions. IB Lyrical says, thanks, Rob. Great info. You are welcome. Just to sum up what we've talked about, we've talked about how much gold resources China has in the entire cycle, including exploration, meaning not dug out of the ground, actual mined, owned commercially and retail, and in the central bank system is about 14,700 tons. That's not stating that China is restating what they hold in their central bank system. That's their reserves known in ground and above ground comprehensively across the cycle. We've talked about Dr. Stephen Lieb coming on King World News saying in 2022, China is going to peg their yuan to gold or the renminbi to gold, or at least back it with gold in some way. That's unsubstantiated, but that's his opinion. I gave my opinion on that. We also brought up the Hugo Salinas price article in the Mexican news. We talked about earlier this year about him saying that China and Russia threatened to back their currencies with gold at some point, which forced the BIS to implement Basel III and NSFR and affect the system. And London and LBMA's reaction to that in delaying that and also exempting certain parts of their derivative market from it. And I think this is a war for gold, and it's a war for what's going to be the strongest currency. And I've said that many times. My end conclusion of Basel III was it's going to pull physical gold market away from London and discredit the LBMA as the world's #1 trading center and pull power over to other centers in the Middle East, Russia, and China, and possibly even to the US and the COMEX. And I think that's happening. And I think the more we see about all this news about China, Russia, gold, that's starting to come true. I think that prediction is starting to come true. Now it takes time. We're not going to flip a switch and have it happen overnight. It takes time, but I think it's going to happen. Shannon Wright, thank you. Your knowledge sharing is appreciated. You're appreciated for joining the channel. Thank you so much, Shannon Wright, for joining. Sean Driver says, which crypto? I don't invest in cryptos. I'm talking about central bank digital currencies here in particular. So we're talking about the CBDC in China, the digital renminbi, potentially the digital euro, and potentially the digital dollar. I am not a crypto. I analyze the cryptos, but I don't subscribe to them. I think most of them are Ponzi schemes. My personal opinion. Take that for whatever you wish. I think that's going to do it for tonight, guys. I think we've been cranking for about 40 minutes here. I've answered all the questions. Thank you for the super chats, guys. It helps support the channel. I appreciate that so much. Pays for everything that we do here. I've got an entire team that does this. Appreciate you guys. I think we have covered the news well. I think we've answered all your questions. I want to do more live streams. I promised you guys I would. Get back to basics, get back to gold and silver, get back to world economics. We've done that. Do more live streams and appreciation events for you guys that have supported this channel. Well, I've seen 260 people in the channel. It's been a wonderful live stream today, guys. Thank you so much for supporting us. We appreciate it. To everybody, Dumb Money Media for the contributions, Glenn, all you guys appreciate it. Appreciate the support. We've got more coming. We're going to do more content. I'm going to do more live streams. We're going to do more Q&As, and we're going to do more of the pre-recorded content as well that you guys like, where I do the deep dive robs. Stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for a special announcement about mid-September, how we're changing some of what we're doing on the channel as well to better serve you. That is coming. Stay tuned for that. We'll have more coverage as the week goes on and as the month goes on. We're winding down August, saying goodbye to August and welcoming September. Note that we will be at the Silver Symposium at the end of September, and we'll be at the New Orleans Investment Conference in October. At the Silver Symposium, if you sign up, you can go to our social media and see a link, or you can just look up Silver Symposium on the web. You'll see that I'm hosting a roundtable on the first day, and on the second day, I'm giving a presentation. So if you can make it up to Idaho, join us there. If enough people come and tell me they're coming, we'll do a special appreciation event for GS Pros members. I don't know what it is yet. We'll see who's going. But if you go up there, let me know. If you're going to the New Orleans Investment Conference in October, let me know. We'll be on Media Row representing Gold Silver Pros. My whole team is going to both of those events, and you can meet the whole team there if you wish and speak to me in person. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, go to goldsilverpros.com and sign up for the free newsletter so you can get notified of these, and we will see you next time. Until next time, this is Rob with Gold Silver Pros.